Good morning, Andrew, and welcome to the Show Up and Lead series. I am really interested today in hearing about everything you do in the space of leadership. So before we begin, can I invite you to introduce yourself to our listeners and our audience?
Certainly, thanks, Nancy. Hi, my name's Andrew Codling. I work in the pharmaceutical industry. I've worked in the pharmaceutical industry for 32 years now. 28 of those have been local at a manufacturing plant near here in various leadership management roles. And in the last 4.5 years, I've been working internationally, remotely from home, but supporting international sites in other countries, including India, China, as well as Australia.
That's fantastic. So I'm eager to hear about your perception of leadership, first and foremost, what your definition of it is, and then how does that definition work for you at a local level, at a national level, and an international level?
Yeah, okay. So leadership to me is, and I've been in various forms from supervisor to manager to senior leaders, and the role does change a bit, and obviously the further up the ladder you go, the less you're concerned around day-to-day things with people and the more about creating an environment, about creating a culture where people can thrive, people can grow, and you can achieve the outcomes that you and your company need. So I think it definitely changes, and it changes again as I work internationally now, and you engage with different cultures.
Yeah.
You have to really kind of learn, how to react with those. Yeah. And it's very interesting.
And an added challenge with that, especially with the international dimension, is the remoteness, the virtual communication. How do you adapt to that? How do you work with that?
Yeah, look, lucky enough that we do connect face-to-face with these manufacturing plants and the colleagues there. So, but that happens, once or twice a year. Yeah. And so in between, you might meet new people online, and you've got to try and build rapport with them through Teams or Zoom or whatever it is. So that is a challenge at times, but I think you have a lot of common ground. Yeah. And if you take the time to try and get to know someone and give a little bit about yourself and find things that you have in common, then you can build that relationship.
So tell me more, Andrew, about your thoughts in terms of what makes a successful leader successful.
I think empathy with people. I think understanding, what their concerns are. I think, being able to help them and support them. And everyone's different because some people are quite capable in certain areas and lack their confidence in others. Yeah. So it's good to know individually what is driving them, and try and help them, one, remove the stress that they may have through doing their role. Yeah. And secondly, provide them opportunities where they can thrive as far as achievements in work. Sure. And then importantly for retention is to provide them opportunities where they can develop themselves. And that one in particular can be quite tricky because often people think about what they want to do, particularly like wanting to go into management or leadership. Sure. And some people are well suited for that and some people are not. Yeah. So it becomes tricky to work with people to bring out what their strengths are and focus them in the direction that is probably the best for them. But the best way to do that is obviously give them opportunities and then make them realise, hey, maybe that's not what I want to do. Yeah. Rather than just saying, no, that's not for you. You should be going here, because that's a great way to disengage people. Yeah.
I love the way how you put forward this notion of giving people a go. That's showing up and leading for you, and that's really important, aligned with honouring the dignity of the human person. Tell me more about how do you stay resilient when you are leading others? Because, there are some tough days in leadership.
There are, and it can be very tricky particularly when you've got to do things that you don't want to do. Yeah. I always try and stay calm, because if you're, as a leader, if you're stressed, if you're angry, it just passes down to people and it creates an environment where people don't want to do that. So no matter what kind of news, bad news you hear, always try and stay calm, try and work the problem and develop an action plan that you can work on, and then start doing that so everyone knows that we've got a path forward and we'll do that. And periodically listen to people, get their feedback. Is it working? Are we going the right way? And then adjust the plan if need be. And I think one of the key things is really listening to people.
Yeah.
So if people got an idea and you think it might work, fine, let's try that, monitor it and adjust it if we need. There are more than one way to get to your outcome you need.
Yeah.
And people don't like being micromanaged.
True. Very true.
and that's one of the key things where I think a lot of great organisers will say this is the way we should do it, and then when their colleagues deviate from that path, they get frustrated and upset. But there are more than one way to achieve the outcome you need, and quite often, sometimes the people will think up a better way of doing it.
Yeah.
And so, listening to people, giving them the opportunities to do it their way. Obviously, if it doesn't achieve the outcome, you've got to pull them back and redirect. But it's far more satisfying for them if they feel they can contribute to the outcome and get the required results.
It's great, and I'm hearing a lot of collaboration. I'm hearing a lot of consultation, and that's really important, especially. And you mentioned earlier in that notion of wanting to minimise attrition in the workplace. So tell me specifically about how do you go about identifying future leaders and setting them on a progression pathway?
Yeah, look, it's the two ways. Obviously, some people come to you and say, I'm really interested in this, and will put their hand up for opportunities. And then it's really around finding those opportunities for those kind of people, because if you don't, they're going to move on.
Yes.
So often with those kind of people, it's finding them a project to lead or looking for a short-term secondment. We use them quite a lot in our industry, where the person can go and lead this team or work in a different area and then know that they can come back in 12 months or 24 months back to their current role. And I find that it's more common for people to go, oh, gee, that's outside my area of expertise, I don't want to go there. But really, as part of someone's growth and development, if you're not feeling a bit of discomfort, then you're probably not growing really well. And so I would certainly encourage a lot of people to have a think about a sideways move or a diagonal move. Okay. And even if you're trying to position yourself for your boss's role, if you take a sideways step or another sideways step, because of those increased experiences, you actually be more suitable for the next level role. Yeah. And then you might open yourself up to 3 possible roles at that level rather than just the one.
Yeah. So the stretch is good.
The stretch is good. Yeah, the stretch is good. And I've always said, when I've been given some opportunities in my career, some of them, I've kind of been pushed along to, and I've said to myself, well, I'll do it for a year. If I don't like it, then I'll look for something else.
Yeah.
And so at the time it was hard work, because I always say the first 12 months of a new job is the hardest bit.
Agreed.
As you're learning. And looking back on some of these sideways moves that I've done, I don't regret a single one of them, because they've helped me get to where I am today. So,
cool. Okay, so tell me then, what do you think are some of the misconceptions of leadership that exist out there, not necessarily in your industry, but across industries? What do you think is the misconception of leadership in the community?
Yeah, I think often people just mistake management and leadership as the same thing. And management is more around directing people, making sure that you've got someone to do this task and that the task is completed on time. And leadership is more holistic, and it's about creating an environment and a culture where people can succeed. I mean, sure, there's direction, and you provide the overall direction and you provide the overall outcome that you want to see as a minimum, and then it's really about empowering people to get to that outcome or exceed that outcome, and the details of how they get there is not that relevant to you, and you should step back and let the team work that out. So I think that's the most common misconception, is management and leadership are the same thing, and they're not.
Yeah. And would you suggest that that's the same, that misconception exists locally, nationally and internationally, or is it something that's just local to us?
No, absolutely. It's the same everywhere, across every culture. And you'll see the managers that try and manage everything, and obviously the more people you've got in your team, the harder that becomes. And if you can't let go of that and let go of some of the details and just focus on the more strategy and the vision side of things, then you're just going to burn out and also burn out your people, because you're not giving them the freedom that they're looking for to be able to work to get the outcomes.
Yeah. So tell me, because, I speak to a lot of people in this space and run a lot of workshops in this space. From a leadership perspective, trying to get to know people in the organisation, even just by name, this is Johnny who works on the floor, this is Jason who works in admin, or whoever it is. What do you do to try and reach as many people as you can?
Look, it is a tricky one. I meet so many people, particularly people from India and China. I cannot remember names, and it takes me sometimes 4 or 5 times before I met them. But I think forgetting someone's name and then saying, "Oh, look, sorry, I can't remember your name," it makes you kind of human anyway.
Yeah, good.
Happy to get out and meet people. I think it's great when you can see people in their work environment, or see when they've got accomplishments and recognition. We're lucky enough, I get involved. I get to be the person that shakes their hand and presents them with an award. So it is nice to meet these people. We also try to have some lunches and dinners and things like that, where you can actually sit down and talk to people and get some level of rapport. So it's just unfortunate that there's so many people, you just can't meet them all and really get to know them. But,
I know it's quite tricky. So can I then ask you, what are some of the key values that actually guide you in your role as a leader? What are those key values? What are the non-negotiables of those?
Well, I think, listening to people is an important one. I think when you're trying to help them, is not to take all their problems on you, but to try and work out a plan where they can help themselves, hopefully. And there's no actions for you, but if there are actions for you, it's then follow through. So even if you chase it up and you can't get what they wanted, then provide them feedback about why we couldn't do it, and do that in a timely fashion. Otherwise, they lose faith or trust in you. I think giving people and trying to empower them as much as possible, trying to make a fun place to be in a caring environment. So, people. Not everyone likes going to work. Not everyone has a dream job where they can't wait to be there every day. But I think if people are dreading coming to work and they're like, that's not good for them, and it's not good for your team. Yeah. So I think it's really important to create an environment that everyone feels that they're valued, and feels that they can contribute. And on the flip side of that, of course, if there's people in the team that are not contributing, that upsets the rest of the team. Yeah. And they feel, why am I carrying this person?
Sure.
Why don't you do something about it? And they will come to you and speak to you. And, and at that point, you've really got to do something. And, it's one of the harder things around leadership and management is making sure that everyone in the team is contributing, and some people will contribute a lot more, obviously, and you need those high performers, and you need those people that come to work every day. But for the people that don't contribute and are a dead weight on the team, you need to turn that around, which can happen if you find out what they're upset about and address that. However, some people, you can't turn around, and if that's the case, you need to take some action, and to move them on from your team in whatever way works the best way to do that. But That's probably one of the hardest lessons to learn.
Yeah.
Because no one likes to end someone's career or end someone's job, but to have a good performing team and to have everyone happy, you need to make some of those hard decisions.
Yeah, fantastic. Because my next question was going to be, what's been one of the important leadership lessons that you have learned? And you've just said,
that's exactly
that's
and
the
that's
hardest
one of the
one.
hardest one. Yeah, and engage early. Obviously engage your human resources professionals. They're used to dealing with this kind of thing. Engage your manager or your boss, because all these people are there to support you through this process.
Yeah.
And it's a very difficult process.
Yeah,
if it's not difficult for you, perhaps you shouldn't be in leadership.
So tell me more about your mindset. I know some people take things quite personally and, they tend to hold on to their job and not necessarily invite but expect that others see the value that they hold for the job. Well, what's your mindset in the leadership space?
Look, I try and see the person's point of view that you're working with. It might not even be someone in your team. It might be someone else's team. And they're probably even more tricky because sometimes in your team you can say, look, we just need to do this. Can you go and do it? It's part of your job, and they'll go and do it. But when you're engaging with other people and other leaders, you've got to get their buy-in. And so you've got to find out what it is they want out of the transaction or the business process, and you've got to try and see and demonstrate the value for them. And sometimes there's no value for them. And so then you've got to lean on your relationships and and that becomes tricky. So negotiation is part of that. But I think, really around empowering people is those core values that you want to encourage and just empathise with people. But at the end of the day, you do have to remember you're the one there to tell them what work they have to do and to monitor them to see whether or not they're working at the level that they need to.
Well, that's a good lead into my next question, because I wanted to ask you about what metrics do you use in the leadership space? Metrics to grow and develop individuals, but also to grow and develop yourself.
Yeah, good question. Very tricky one. Obviously, with straight work, you've got you might have outcomes or a number of tasks you need to do per day. So that's quite simple to measure. Then you've got the more intangible type things which might only be measured by milestones or a level of report output or something. So they become very difficult. And then obviously a personal growth aspect, how does one track their own personal growth? I think then it's one of the things I get people to do is I write to say, what are you interested in? What do you want to do? And most people go, I don't know what I need to do. And I say, are you developing here? No, I've got nothing. And I say, well, what have you done? Yeah. And I said, have you updated your resume? And most people have been in a job for 5 years or more, haven't updated their resume for 5 years or more. And I say, well, why don't we update your resume every year?
Yeah.
And if you're not being able to put something on there each year, then perhaps you aren't developing yourself. Maybe you need to do something. And people automatically think, oh, well, I'll go on a training course and that's my development. And it's more than that.
Correct, yeah.
So it's really around having a plan where, okay, you go on this training course, maybe it's in supervisory skills or negotiation, and then it's about getting an experience.
Yeah. Because
we all know experience counts for everything.
Absolutely.
And getting an experience where you can utilise some of those skills. Yeah. So I'm, school is great, and you're very focused on that and know more about it than I do. It's great. It really prepares people for the next step. And then once you've got your actual work experience, what you did at school is not so important anymore. Yeah. Because it's not always that relevant. But you can always go back, learn more, and then expand your repertoire and your work experience. So they go hand in hand. But it's if you just go to school or just go to the training and then don't use it, it's kind of a waste.
Yeah, agreed. And what about for you? What do you do to keep yourself growing and developing in this space?
It seems to find me somehow. So I know I am interested, and I definitely, I'm kind of technology based, so I love anything shiny and gadgety and stuff. So I'm always looking around, love going to the new facilities and different facilities in our network.
Great.
So to me, like a kid in a candy store. But I love meeting new people and seeing, what they're doing. So for me, it just, it seems okay, and it seems to find me. And we often doing reorganisations and things. And I've been lucky enough within the company that I'm still there after so many years. I rarely say no. When the boss comes and says, "Can you do this?" It's yeah, sure, why not? And it's like, thank you, but not often do you regret saying yes.
Yeah. So as we come to an end with our discussion, I wanted to ask you, what do you think are some tips and tricks that you would give to people who are seeking leadership positions?
Yeah, look, obviously trying to get an experience in that, and maybe it's not a management experience where people report to you and you're doing performance reviews and appraisals and looking at their salary and deciding things.
Yeah.
But it may be there's a lot of opportunities out there to lead projects,
sure,
lead initiatives where people report to you, but they don't actually report to you. So it's more like a management opportunity, but it gets you. Negotiation skills and working with people. So definitely put your hand up for that. I would say definitely go to your boss, talk to them, let them know. Don't be afraid to go and talk to other leaders in other departments.
That's a good one.
And get their information and just say, look, I might be thinking, want to come here and work for you. What's your area about? Because knowing senior leaders, the further up you go, you really kind of need a patron or two to support your development.
Great.
And as you go into senior leader roles, if you're not known to someone in the industry, it's very difficult to get those roles.
Okay.
So that and mentoring. I think mentoring is find a mentor. So obviously your boss is your first and foremost mentor, but they not always give you everything that you need. So it's good to go and seek other mentors. Can be outside the industry as well. Doesn't have to be within your own industry. And just where you can sit there and talk and say, gee, I think I'm stalling. I think